Okay, so Us has been out for 4 days now, and people are still calling it a masterpiece. I don't understand it. It's not. It's not. It's not. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dave Cave. I, as always, am Dave. Now, like I said, this movie's been out for 4 days, and I've been talking to people about it all over the place. Online, my personal life. I've just been talking about this movie because people want to talk to people about it because this movie gets you thinking. Kinda. But I wanted to make this video to get some of my ideas out there because it seems to me like a lot of people are missing what really brings the movie down for me. And I don't know how people miss these things, but we're going to get into them. Let's go. And before we start, this is going to be full-blown spoilers. We're talking about everything about this movie that I didn't like. Full-blown twists, turns, ups, downs, lefts, rights. We're talking about all that. So if you haven't seen the movie, one, you should. Despite how I feel about this movie, you should go see this movie and draw your own conclusions. But if you want to watch a review, spoiler free, down below I put the link there. Go check that out. Come back. See why I really don't like about this movie. Now, before I start this little rant, like I said in my spoiler free review, I enjoy a lot of parts of this movie. The acting, cinematography, soundtrack, all great. Love all those things. Lupita Nyong'o, there's already Oscar talk about that for her. I'm all for it. I think she does amazing as herself and as her tethered version. I think that just very well done. And on top of that, my problems in the movie don't really start until the initial interaction between the family and their tethered versions. But my first problem with the movie is it's a retroactive one, because it comes from what we learn later in the movie, is that Lupita Nyong'o's tethered, Red, has trouble speaking. But she has had decades to heal from having her throat crushed by a 7-year-old. Granted, a rageful, no sense of limits 7-year-old that probably squeezed as hard as she could, but it's a 7-year-old. You would have healed from that and probably be talking to these people and finding out that all these people down in this other world don't speak and probably trying to teach them how to speak. But that's just me. Didn't make sense at all. And with that idea, there's a great inconsistency with who can make noise and who can't, and who can make what kind of noise and who can't. And that, to me, got very confusing. It's like, okay, why can Pluto growl like a dog? Why does he growl like a dog? But then you have Gabe's tethered that, grunts. And then you have the ninja daughters that are screeching like, the witch in Left 4 Dead 2. It's like, why? Who can and who can't? Why can they? Why can't they? Doesn't make sense. And that's going to be a recurring theme in this because that plays into part of overreaching why I don't like this movie, because that aspect kind of ruins a bunch of different scenes for me. So moving from the initial meeting, you have Gabe and his tethered out on the boat, right? He's in the bag, rips the bag open, the engine fails on the boat. This was groundwork laid earlier in the movie that this boat was a piece of shit. That's fine. I get that. And then you have his tethered having to fight with the motor. You're like, okay, this is his moment. Stands up, smokes him in the face with the bat. Awesome kind of hero moment. Great. You're like, okay, the rope tied to his leg. He's got a buoy. He's going to get back somehow, and this boat isn't working. Holy shit, this is a terrible... Oh, okay, now the boat is kicking back on, and you practically can hear this sound as he falls off the boat. And for me, it's just way overacted and way just comedically done that it's like, I'm supposed to be scared right now. And then you just cut that so hard. Could just right off the boat. That's all it could have been. I go, whoa! And then he falls in the boat. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Stop it. So you move from the house and you have the family go to Josh and Kitty's house with the twin daughters. And stuff already went sideways there. Hard. But then you go from there and you have Josh's tethered chasing Gabe. Gabe has his messed up leg, and this is a scene that should be outright terrifying. You should just be shitting your pants for Gabe right now. And he's shitting his pants. He's going to be murdered by this soulless creature. But the way that Josh is tethered is like, oh, oh, oh. It's like, this is comedic. This is Shaun of the Dead level bullshit. And that is not what this movie appeared to be setting out to do. This scene should be terrifying. Every interaction with these tethereds should be terrifying, and it's just really not. Oftentimes it's comedic. Other times it's brutal and done well, but oftentimes it's comedic. And then you cap off that whole chase scene with the flare gun. The flare gun goes off, pings off Josh's tethered, and he's like, oh shit. That scene, one, didn't really need to happen. You could have just had them fight. Or miss. He misses the flare gun. Oh shit! And have him be more panicked about the fact that this guy's 5 feet from him and about to do work on him. That scene should have been outright terrifying. The only reason for me that scene continues to work, because that was stupid, I'm like, oh my god, this is dumb. They flash up to Kitty's tethered. And she's looking out the window, and she sees that this is going on. And she screams at the top of her lungs. Elizabeth Moss kills this scene. It's perfect. It's one of my favorite moments in this movie, because you have this creature that can't make a sound, and she is screaming at the top of her lungs for what she believes is her most beloved in the world. And to me, the fact that they could pull that off so just perfectly and have no speech and no nothing, I thought that right there, that's exactly what all the tethereds should be like. None of them should speak. They should have trouble making any sound aside from stomping, clapping their hands, something like that, but no vocal sound. If you cut out the vocal sound, I think it could have been so much more effective. So much more effective. Even the creepiness of Josh's tethered. Chasing him, you take away the, and he's just like, that shit would have been creepy as hell. You take out the audio, and that shit would have been creepy as hell. Point for Kitty, point away for Josh. And now my next problem, it also was kind of my favorite part of the movie. It just wasn't utilized properly. You have Jason's ability to control Pluto like a puppet. Puts his hand up, his hand goes up, picks the mask up and down. Very cool. I loved that idea that these people were really puppets of each other. They even kind of mentioned that in the exposition scene. Holy shit, we're going to get to that. Just wait. So then you have Jason stand up out at the beach, and he walks back to get Pluto to walk back into the fire. Very cool scene. Very well done, because it also works to get Jason away from everybody so that Red can pick him up and disappear, and then they freak out that Jason's gone. Very cool scene. Very well done. And then you fast forward a few minutes to when they're having their conversation. Red and Adelaide. They're having their conversation down in the other, at the bottom of the escalator in that classroom. And you see that there is a much more puppet master kind of thing to it. You know, they replay the carnival scene, and you have the dad, and it's playing how the tethered have the same kind of movements as the, above worlders, so to speak, and how that plays out. And then you have how the dance works into that, and that's how the tethereds understand that this girl's special, and they look to her as their leader because she can do these things. But then you have Jason be the only person that uses this, or can use this, or that this happens with. No other tethered all of a sudden starts mimicking their human counterpart. Why? Jason has complete control over Pluto. Complete control over Pluto when he starts to mime, and Pluto just follows it. And the dance, it's a complete, it's not a mirror dance, it's more messed up as the tethered version. But why isn't that used more often? Why doesn't anybody stop dead in their tracks because that person's not moving anymore? Doesn't make sense. It's a plot device that's added but never really fully utilized. It should be used by everybody. In the logic of the movie, none of these tethered people should be moving unless there are other versions moving. Doesn't make sense. Alright, so this is my last big problem I have with the movie. It stems into a couple smaller problems, but this is my last big one, is the exposition scene where Red and Adelaide are having their conversation down in the classroom. It introduces a lot of concepts that don't make sense. One, who did the cloning? And I understand, sure, you can kind of leave that, but why did you leave that? And why do these clones have the exact same clothing as the people above ground? And how, all of a sudden, you have Adelaide's father, he wins that shirt. And then he turns around and shows it to her, and Adelaide's like, not really loving it. But then they show the tethered version of the father win this shirt and turn around and it's inside out. Cool in concept. Where the hell did the shirt come from? Like, I understand that there's some kind of soul link, a soul shared between two bodies. I get that. I get that idea that because they're clones, they have a shared whatever. But all these people should be butt-ass naked. In concept. There's no logic behind why all of a sudden the dad wins their shirt above and miraculously the shirt materializes out of nothing down below. Makes absolutely no sense. Also, continuing with the idea of clothes miraculously appearing out of nowhere, where the hell did they get all the red jumpsuits? Where the hell did they get all these matching scissors? Where the hell did they get all these matching shoes? Where the hell did they get all this matching stuff? Doesn't make sense. At all. Since none of them can talk, none of them have money, none of them have any way of getting these things, it doesn't make sense. For me, that seems a gigantic plot hole to leave out there that you have all these clothes materializing out of nowhere. So now, to talk about the big thing that makes me frustrated about this movie and why it's not a masterpiece, because this whole scene is wholly unnecessary. This scene between Red and Adelaide talking in the basement, okay? The points it brings up, I already talked about that. Now, we're talking about this scene as a scene. Did not need to happen. In the scene, whatever. But then you fast forward a few minutes, and you have the twist that you could see a million miles away. You have the twist, but then you think about it, and you're like, okay, so you have Red, the human, the true human, Red, got her throat crushed, so to speak, her ass dragged down some escalator stairs, and handcuffed to a bed. And then the shadow version, the tethered version of herself, goes up and takes her place. Holy shit, that's crazy. Sure, that is crazy. That is full-blown crazy. That's nuts. I can get behind that. Saw it coming, but I can get behind that. But the need for that conversation and the exposition as to what's going on and the cloning and all these people down in the world and oh my god, and this is crazy and you don't know. She does know. She was the one that lived there for 7 or 8 years, however old she is when she's down there. She lived it. And they both know it. They both know that they both know what the under there is. It makes no sense. Why would they need to have that conversation? And now I understand some of the things that Red explains to Adelaide, the tethered version of herself, about the having to perform a C-section on herself and having to give birth and all of this stuff. That stuff is bonkers. Holy crap. But that scene in and of itself, to explain everything, there needed to be a better way to do that, because when you think back on it, the logic of the movie does not dictate the need for them to explain to each other what's going on with the shadow world, because it exists, and they both know it, and they both have lived it. So we're going to wrap up with some final thoughts here. Like I said, there was a lot I liked about this movie. The cinematography, acting, soundtrack, all great things. They all did very well. Like I said, this is a mostly well put together film. The writing, it's weak. Like I said, the story doesn't add up. When you find out the plot twists and you get the exposition, but then the way it all works together, it doesn't make sense. There are a lot of holes, and why this but not that? Why this? That doesn't make sense. But this makes sense, but then that doesn't make sense because that makes sense. And you can't have that much jumbled up crap and be called a horror masterpiece. Something else is they show Jeremiah 11:11, and 11:11 is a recurring theme, and so I looked up what that could be. And knowing what that is, I feel so much more frustrated for how much better this movie could have been in the direction they could have gone. Here it is. Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape, and although they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. Basically saying, I'm going to bring hell on earth and fuck them. That's badass. That's legit. I can get behind that. If this had been copied demon people of them, which they looked like they probably were going to be, I could have very much gotten behind that. That shit would have been bonkers. But then he tried too hard and failed. For me, he failed pretty big. Okay, well that is going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed this little rant, don't forget to like and share. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And be sure to check me out on Instagram and Twitter at @TheDaveCave_. I post there when I'm not posting here. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by. See you guys very soon. Take care.